I knew at a very young age that I wanted to be an elementary teacher. In fact, when I was in fourth grade, I had a teacher named Mrs. Corpy, and I adored her so much that I insisted to my mom that I get my hair cut to look just like her. Mrs. Corpy was a fantastic teacher. She loved reading and she celebrated my love for reading. When I went into junior high, I still knew that I wanted to be a teacher, and I decided at that age to choose my college. I chose that I was going to go to St. Cloud State University because I knew that many teachers that I had had went to that college, and I heard it was a good teacher college. My senior year of high school, I was still focused on becoming a teacher, and I had a great opportunity to spend 2 hours of every day in an elementary classroom working with a teacher and students, getting to see a little inside peek on what it was like to be a teacher. The end of my senior year, though, there was some chaos in my life, and this would become a pattern in my life. The chaos involved some family changes and some financial difficulties, and a little bit of irresponsibility on my side where I wasn't doing my very best in all my classes. Because of that, it didn't really make the best sense for me to go to St. Cloud right after high school. So instead, I went to community college for a year. During this time, I was able to embrace all of that chaos, and I was able to get myself focused. The next fall, I went to St. Cloud State and I started my teaching courses, which I loved and got re-energized to become a teacher. But during my time at St. Cloud State, a new chaos entered my life, a chaos that would stay with me for the rest of my life, my journey with anxiety and depression. And because this was the beginning of that journey, it was hard to navigate. I was trying to figure out what it was, and with that and other things that were happening, it took me a little bit longer to graduate from college. I should have graduated in 3 years. It took me 5, but I graduated. In spring of 2000, I had graduated from St. Cloud State with my teaching degree, and I was ready to become a teacher. Kind of. When I graduated, it was a time where teachers were aplenty. Every job you applied for had hundreds of teachers applying, and I was feeling a little not really confident about becoming a teacher just yet. And because of so many applicants, well, I just didn't get a job. And so instead what I did is I went to go work at a child care center, and I became a toddler teacher. Talk about chaos. My job at the child care center was interesting, and I actually was put into a program where I became a director, and I was directing my own child care center for a while. And although it was interesting and I learned a lot about children and I learned a lot about leadership, it definitely wasn't my favorite job. And so I knew it was time for me to move on and try something else. Well, around this time, my niece was born. And we as a family decided it was important for me to be there for my family and for me to try something different. And so what we did is I stayed home during the day with my niece, and I went to work evenings where my mom and my sister were working during the day, which was at Target Financial Services. So we literally traded my niece at the time clock. This worked out really well for quite a while. I got to spend time with her, and I had a really great job at Target. But this is definitely the time when I realized I am not doing what I'm passionate about. I want to be teaching. And so during the spring of 2003, I started substitute teaching. And I knew, okay, I'm back at it. This is what I want to do. By fall of 2003, I was hired as a long-term substitute teacher in Princeton Public Schools. And this is the district I'm still in today. For the next 2 years, I had many different long-term sub positions and a few short-term positions. And it was just really a great experience. For any young teachers out there, I strongly suggest if you don't get your job right away, go be a substitute teacher. It is the best experience to see what it's like to be a teacher and experience different classrooms and just really see what's happening. You get to soak in so much of different teachers' points of view. It was wonderful. Well, in 2005, I was hired as a 4th and 5th grade looping teacher. I was pretty sure I was about to become Mrs. Corpy because now I was in 4th grade. And it was pretty cool. I was a looping teacher, so I got to spend 2 years with my students and their families, which was pretty interesting. And I did that for several years. Well, fast forward to 2014. I'm now teaching just 5th grade. And with this 5th grade team, I am loving life. We are really challenging each other as teachers. We're doing great things with our kids. This is a really fun teaching position. My personal life is going great too. I'm newly married. I've got 2 great bonus kids. Life is grand. Low chaos. So you know what's coming. Spring of 2014 comes, and it's a time to start talking about changes for the next school year. And as we start talking about changes, our principal lets us know that the 3rd grade class coming up is really big, and the 5th grade class is going to be pretty small. And this is going to mean he needs to move 1 5th grade teacher down to 3rd grade. I'm not really concerned about this because I'm assuming we're going by the seniority rule. I've been there for a while, and so they're going to make someone else go. Well, I didn't hear who was moving, so I went and asked the person you ask at a school when you want to know what's going on, the school secretary. And I went to her and I said, who is moving to 3rd grade? And she said, you have to go talk to John about that. And I thought, well, that's weird. Just the way she said it, it felt a little off. So I went to talk to John. And as we were talking, he said, well, Jody, I want you to move to 3rd grade. Okay. And he looked at me and he said, you are the best, worst option. And he went on to quickly explain that what he meant by that was that it was not a good option for any 5th grade teacher to have to move to 3rd grade because it was a big jump. 5th grade to 3rd grade, 2 very different grade levels, new curriculum, moving teams. He knew I adored my team, but that I could handle it. That I would be a good fit with the 3rd grade teachers, that I would be a good fit for 3rd grade students. So this is why I was the best, worst option. So because I know my principal and I know John, I knew that in a way this was a compliment, and I took it as that. And so that summer I packed up all my 5th grade stuff and I moved to 3rd grade. That first day in my 3rd grade classroom felt like chaos. I felt like I'd been dropped off at camp, and I'll be honest, I cried. I was so sad. I felt like I was all alone, which is really weird because I wasn't very far from my 5th grade classroom, and the people who I was going to be teaching with in 3rd grade, I'd been teaching with just as long as I'd been teaching with anybody else. But it still felt a little odd. However, even though that first week of teaching 3rd grade was the longest week of my life, 3rd graders do everything so much slower than 5th grade. I soon embraced the chaos, and I loved teaching 3rd grade. This is when I became Mrs. Corpy. This is when I fell in love with teaching all over again. Not that I didn't love teaching before, but this is when I fell in love with it. This is where I was meant to be. They became my littles, and my littles and I, we did so many amazing things. We were doing read alouds and just doing the typical stuff, but I just did it with so much energy and passion. And my husband saw it at home. He just saw this energy that I had for teaching, and I was doing great things. There's only one thing that was bugging me, is every once in a while I would hear people say, well, 3rd grade can't do that, or that's too hard for 3rd grade. And a lot of times it was around the idea of technology. And that kind of bugged me because I was pretty techie. And I had done a lot of tech stuff with my 5th graders, and I thought, well, yeah, they can. Let's try it. And so we did. We would try new things, and of course they could do it because 3rd graders are awesome, and it would work great. Well, my 2nd year teaching 3rd grade, I actually became a tech coach. And in my job as a tech coach, it was my job to not only do cool things with technology, but teach other teachers about it. So I would tell my kids, you're the guinea pigs. We have to try these new things, and now we have to go tell the other teachers about it. And they would get so excited because they were the guinea pigs. And it would be crazy. Sometimes it wouldn't work. So it became a mantra in my classroom that mistakes are awesome because that's when we learn. So we got really good about just dealing with things not working. But it worked. I mean, we were doing great things. Like my kids created their own Google Forms and collected data. They were in Google Classroom. Seesaw was new to me that year. We did Seesaw, Class Dojo. They made their own thing links to create their own information to share with others about what they had learned. It was just amazing. And I was having so much fun sharing with teachers. So I was, definitely telling them all the time all the things my kids were doing. I was creating tutorials. I was having people come in my classroom after school. It was a blast. I couldn't do it as much as I wanted, of course, because my littles were my priority, but I was really getting passionate about sharing with teachers. And that summer, going, what would have been my third year in third grade, I found out we were getting one-to-one iPads. So I was super excited for that summer because I was going to learn so much more, and I was going to get all of us on board with doing great things next school year. Well, that summer I got an email. And in that email, it said that our tech integration specialist had left, and they wanted me to consider that job and maybe apply for it, because we had had 4 different tech integration specialists in 4 years, and we wanted to have some consistency in the position. So I was like, well, that sounds cool. I mean, it's what I was doing as a tech coach, but I would get to do it full time, but it would mean leaving the classroom. And at this point, I'd been teaching since 2005 full time, and it was 2016. So I was like, well, 11 years, I mean, is that really time to leave the classroom just yet? So I started talking to my husband about it, and I'm telling him, like, this sounds really cool, but I mean, I've bought all the stuff for my classroom. We've got tons of boxes and boxes, and I still have great ideas, and I really love teaching littles, and all these reasons why I can't possibly even think about this job. And he looks at me and he says, Jody, you are telling me all these reasons why you can't possibly apply for this, but your face is lit up. You want to go for this, and I know you're going to regret if you don't. And I'll forever be grateful for that conversation, because I did apply for it and I got the job. I just finished my 3rd year. I'm finishing my 3rd year as the tech integration specialist in Princeton. Now, the day I got the job, one of the phone calls I made was to my dad. My dad, everyone he met knew I was a teacher. Whether he'd told them before or it was his first time meeting them, he loved telling them I was a teacher. So he was super excited to hear about this position. He didn't know I was applying for it, but he was really proud that I was doing something new, and it sounded exciting to him. We had a great talk that day. Well, that would be the last conversation I had with my dad, because 2 days later we lost him unexpectedly. And because that was the last conversation I had with my dad, I always feel a little like he's with me in this position, like he's walking with me, and he's kind of pushing me to be my very best, because I know he would want me to do just the very best I can be, and I know he'd be so stinking proud of me. When I get to do, work at conferences and work with teachers, there's so many days that I want to call him and tell him what I'm doing that I just know he'd be proud. Also, I know it's a blessing I got that job, because losing a parent is chaos. That's probably the worst chaos I've ever dealt with. And if I had to go into teaching that fall, I'm a teacher who takes on all the love and emotion of my kids and their families. And even though I probably could have gotten through, I think it would have been nearly impossible for me to take that on at the same time that I was mourning my dad. So it truly was a blessing in my life that I got this job and the flexibility that came with it at the time that I did. So I was able to embrace the chaos of what was happening with my dad. And I was able to embrace the chaos of this brand new job, because it kind of felt like that. First couple weeks, I did feel a little, again, like I'd been dropped off at camp, and what am I doing here? But I was able to take what I know my dad would want me to do and be strong and move forward, and I started falling in love with my job. I got to go into classrooms. I got to help teachers. I probably emailed them too much, because I was finding so many great ideas, things I wanted them to try. And I loved going into classrooms and co-teaching with them, because there was something maybe they wanted to try, but they weren't really sure of it. The only thing that bugged me in this job is that teachers would apologize to me. They'd say, oh, Jody, I'm so sorry I'm not techie, or I'm so sorry you need to help me with this, or I'm sorry, but can you come and tell me this again? And it would bug me, because I was thinking, why are you apologizing to me? It's my job. I mean, and job security, like, it's really good that you need me. And so that always kind of bugged me. And, I've always had that in my mind, like, why does that bug me? Or why do people apologize? Like, why don't they just accept my help? Well, this spring, I was at an ed tech conference. And at this conference, Jessica Williams, she's kind of known as the improv educator. She's amazing. Well, she was speaking about managed chaos in the classroom. and how we have to have chaos, and we have to allow our children to live in chaos and to have time in order for the big things to happen. That it just has to happen for them to be able to move on and move forward with what they're trying to do. And I realize that adults need that too. We have to give adults that time for chaos. And I just realized that that's what I do. That I love that chaos. I embrace that chaos. And when she was talking, I got super excited. And I had a hard time sitting still because all of a sudden I realized it just clicked. I am the chaos coordinator. I am the chaos coordinator of tech integration. And that is why I don't need people to apologize for me, because this life of mine, where I've had chaos for so long, every bit of my chaos in life has led to beautiful and wonderful things. And I have learned over and over again to embrace my chaos. And so now I get to embrace chaos for others. And I get to help them to do great things with their students. So I get to walk into a classroom and introduce a brand new thing with teachers. And I get to introduce it to their students. And while I'm doing that, they're learning right beside. And they're seeing their students learn it. And let's be honest, their students are learning it so fast. And they're seeing that, and they're seeing that confidence. And what happens is, because that happens so fast, they learn it, they feel confident, and oh boy, do they start taking off. I have teachers who are now emailing me and saying, well, now I'm doing this, this, and this, and I would have never done that if you hadn't come in my classroom to get me started. It's an amazing job, and I love it, and it's all because of this life that came before. I am in the perfect position for me now. And we need more of this in education. We need chaos coordinators. We need to lean on each other more than ever to help each other do all the great things we want to do in education, because education is so complex. We need chaos coordinators for special education and for advanced academics and for literacy and math, and I could go on and on. But what the biggest thing we need to do is we have to stop apologizing for people who need our help, or we need to stop apologizing for asking for help. We just need to be willing to go out and help each other, and willing to ask for that help and be okay with it. We need to embrace each other and embrace what's happening and embrace asking for help, because that's okay. So my challenge to you is this: to either find or be the chaos coordinator for your school. And we can't all go out and be in a classroom. We can't all go out and do, side-by-side teaching, and we can't all go out and be, planning with another teacher side by side. But what we can do is that we can, get really good at Twitter, or we can create tutorials, or we can attend a conference and share, or do a TED Talk on what we're passionate about. We just need to be willing to do that for each other. So I hope that you're willing to go ahead and link arms and do the best that we can be, because we expect our students more than ever now to live in a world where we're communicating and collaborating, and we need to show that. We need to do that for them. We need to model that. So let's go out, let's link our arms, and go out and do the very best for our students, for ourselves, and for our schools. Thanks.